Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to episode 152 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. Tonight, I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
And the Mondo.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey. And we got a very special guest, comic book and TV writer, Josh Eiserike. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on. Always good to see you, my man.
Yep.
And you have something coming out very soon that you wanted to talk about before we get into our review.
A couple things, if everybody's cool with me doing a little pluggy
Yes, please.
before we
Please
jump
do.
in. So as Jason mentioned, I'm a comic book writer, and I got a new book coming out from Scout Comics called Charm City. We're recording this. What is today? It is
the 18th.
The 18th. Yeah. So it's the first issue should be in stores on Wednesday, allegedly.
Nice.
And then every month thereafter, it's 5 issues. It's a serial killer murder mystery set in Baltimore, which is pretty close to where I grew up and am recording from now. But with magic. So like the dumb X meets Y is it's like Harry Potter meets Jessica Jones.
Okay. All right.
Pretty violent. A lot of murder, stabby, and like a pretty cool kind of rock and roll aesthetic. And then if I can keep plugging for 1 second, I do have a visual aid. This is my previous graphic novel, which may be of interest to your listeners or watchers or however people enjoy this podcast. The very final Last Girls from Derby Pop, about the mostly girls that survive horror films. Stories like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, they all come together for group therapy, and then start getting picked off one by one. Similar-ish in premise to the Grady Hendrix novel, if any of you all have read that.
Yeah, I just read that a few months ago.
It's good, but mine is different. Like different.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, it's like how many vampire stories are there? Well, how many Final Girl stories?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That cover too is killer. I like that cover a lot.
Yeah, no, this is Sia Ohm is the cover artist. She's awesome. Am I allowed to curse on this? It's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it's like
that.
that.
You need to look this one up too, because there are 6 issues that made the graphic novel here, and each of the covers is a play on a classic horror poster.
Yes.
Got Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, Dream Warriors. Like you'll love it.
Here,
I want to check this out now.
It's all in the book.
Yeah.
Here's Dream Warriors, and then I'll quickly Friday the 13th. There it is, and then I'll show Evil Dead because that's actually my favorite. There it is. So,
that's cool. Awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
Really cool looking.
Thank you. So yeah, very proud of that book. If you like horror, I think you're going to like the book.
Awesome.
And thank you for letting me on to do the plug. Good night, everybody.
No. We got you. You got to stay the whole time.
I'm teasing.
You're already here.
And what shows have you written on? We have actually, I haven't talked about that when we've hung out.
Sure. So, shows that people might have heard of. I wrote on a iteration of G.I. Joe called G.I. Joe Renegades that is many years now old. And more recently, pre-pandemic, I was on a show called Legacies, which was a spinoff of the Vampire Diaries.
Interesting. That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. It was both were a ton of fun, and then stuff that nobody's heard of, but that I enjoyed.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about. Something that not many people have heard of, and probably few have enjoyed, but we all.
Then I will plug my other show that nobody's heard of, and if you can watch it, it's delightful. It's called Waragami. The CW ran it as a TV movie. I have no idea where anybody can find it. It's a martial arts comedy that's delightful.
Had me a martial arts comedy.
Yeah, martial arts comedy. I'm in.
Waragami or Horigami?
Waragami. W-A-R.
Waragami. Got it.
Waragami.
That's
my favorite thing I've ever worked on, but I'm sad that I don't even have a copy.
All right, I'm gonna look for this because this looks pretty cool.
Well, if you find it, let me know because I would.
Will do.
And I've
the
said
man that wrote it wants to read it.
All right. Well, everyone, go check out all of Josh's stuff. I'm sure I'll link him in all the show notes and all the socials. Also, I want to give a quick plug. We have a very fun interview that just came out with frickin' Joe Dante.
Holy shit!
insanity.
Yeah.
Jason pulled Joe Dante on this show.
Yeah,
I got
Jason-
Joe Dante and another good friend of mine that Josh, I don't know if you know him, Jeremy Licht from our common place of that we know each other from.
I don't know him, but the name is familiar. With I don't really want to get into that on air, but yes, I don't know him
He's
personally.
from Twilight Zone. So the whole interview is basically about Twilight Zone, the movie, the It's a Good Life segment. Jeremy played Little Anthony.
Wow.
And Joe Dante directed that segment, and I was able to get both of them to reunite for the first time in like 40 years, something like that.
The thing
they've
that
not
the things
seen or
that
talked to
Jason
each
pulls
other.
off on this podcast are ridiculous. Like, hey, let's get Al and Gil to rewatch this movie that they haven't watched in 20 years together. Okay, let's do that. Hey, let's get Joe Dante to talk with this kid actor from 40 years ago for the first time. Insanity.
It's amazing.
Insanity.
Well,
I love
it just
everything
goes to the power of showing. If you ask really nicely, sometimes people say yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? Anytime I'm gonna meet like one of those classic legendary directors, I'm always like crossing my fingers to hope that they're they're not going to be grumpy old men. And Joe Dante is delightful.
Please be nice.
Cool.
It's like they say, don't meet your heroes, but yeah, sometimes meet your heroes because he's a super nice guy.
I've always heard he's like an actual friendly guy. In
It'd be cool if Jason invited us to be on that podcast because maybe we want to talk to Joe
that too.
Just kidding.
And I even rewatched Inner Space because I haven't seen that movie. I used to watch that movie all the time when I was a kid. I haven't seen it in easily 30 years.
I've never seen it at all.
It's a funky movie in many ways, but it was fun. And then, talking to the
So
director.
Funny.
No, Mondo, go ahead.
I was like completely related but unrelated. The day you recorded that, I watched Matinee, and I had no idea it was a Joe Dante film. When I finished it, I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." It's that's such a great movie. That
I love that movie. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I
saw like when it came out when I was a kid.
That's me too.
And I watched it again, and I think as an adult, it hits even better because I think you respect that era of sci-fi even more.
I was like, I have one night to watch a random Joe Dante movie, and I almost watched Matinee, but I'm like, I just want to get the nostalgia hit from Inner Space.
I respect that.
But I will watch that soon. Josh, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, it's actually funny. I saw Inner Space when I was probably about 7 or 8 years old at a sleepover.
Nice.
And it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, there's some freaky parts in there.
It scared me. And then the next movie they put on, and I'm not doing this on purpose. This is real. The next movie they put on was The Blob.
That's awesome.
Nice segue.
Together.
There's if you want it, there's a transition.
Yeah, so we're kind of, like I said, we're doing staff picks right now. Just some fun programming before we start our next series. And I'm a huge fan of the Blob remake. It is the first contemporary movie I ever saw. Like I watched, all the Universal monsters, Godzilla's, all that stuff. But this is the first modern movie I saw. And I remember it was on black and white. It just happened to be on TV. Scared the crap out of me, but I've loved it ever since. And my love for it has only grown more and more as I watch it. And I was like, I've been wanting to talk about it on the podcast forever. I just need an excuse. So we're talking about tonight. Again, this came out August 5th, 1988. Jody, give us a plot synopsis.
All right. There's a lot that happens with this movie, so I'm going to do my best with this plot synopsis, but I do have Wikipedia pulled up over here to the side, just because it's, in an hour and a half, this movie never slows down. It is just moving from the second it starts. Plot synopsis. A meteorite crashes near Arborville, California. And some of this may be a little bit out of order, but it's just what actually happens in the story here. An old man finds and discovers this sphere with this slime mold substance in it. It attaches to his hand. But meanwhile, you also have this group of high school students, Brian, Meg, and Paul. Brian being Kevin Dillon with an enviable head of hair, Shawnee Smith, and then another guy.
Jock. Yeah, say Brian Flag.
Guy.
Brian Flag.
That's right. And they find the old man, take him to the hospital. I'm skipping some stuff here, but like the whole thing with the pharmacist and like
we'll talk about that.
Scene is so well done and so funny. Like I was cracking up. I forgot how funny this movie is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like, I remembered the cool special effects, but this movie is really funny. Like, it plays with its gags really well. So then they take the man to the hospital, and then Brian witnesses the man like bubbling and oozing as his lower half completely dissolves. And then Paul tries to call the cops, but the blob drops down on top of him, and Meg then finds him, and he's all like dissolving and getting all stretched out as the blob pulls out the window. I mean, I can't even describe what kind of special effects happen in this movie, considering like this was all practical. This movie is insane to watch, like, and to think like no, there was no computer aid in this movie. Like, this is all just people making stuff. So cool.
Yeah, and just a quick plug at Monster Palooza a couple months ago. They did a presentation with Tony Gardner, who did the special effects, and Kevin Dillon, and they talked a lot about how they did this. So I'll talk about those in a minute too. Yeah,
and Tony Gardner, who is the father of a previous guest on this show. We had Kira on here. All right, so we're down to 2 teenagers because Paul is melted. After Brian and Meg go to the police, they end up kind of meeting at a diner, and Meg tells Brian about what she saw at the hospital, and he doesn't believe her, but then the guy working in the kitchen gets sucked down the drain that's, like 3 inches wide, and manages to get completely dissolved and blood splatter everywhere. And then the diner owner ends up inside of a phone booth, and the blob crushes the phone booth from the inside after dissolving her near boyfriend, the sheriff, in another great special effect. And so the creature keeps coming after them and eating everyone in its path. They go and they find this military operation where the thing landed, and Brian listens in while everybody else gets like shuffled off into different places. Meg ends up back in town. There's a quarantine going on, and the scientists are saying it's because there is an illness, some kind of contagion in the area. But Brian learns that this is actually a biological warfare thing. They sent something up into space, some bacteria, and it mutated from the space radiation. And so the government is lying to them, and the town is basically expendable in order to keep this military secret alive and ready to use against our enemies. Because, it's America. Of course we made a giant weapon and sent it into space, and then we let it eat people when it came back down. Of course we did. The only more American scene is when later they finally get away from the blob, and there's a sewer grate, and so just like 10 men surround the sewer, the hole, and just shoot guns into it. Like, yep, that's what we do. That's exactly how we solve the problem.
That's so American of them.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't work. But anyway, so let's see here. Where are we at? There's so much happening. So Meg goes and saves her brother in the movie theater, and his obnoxious friend, they're there watching a horror movie, and the blob appears in the movie theater, and you get the famous scenes of everybody running away from the movie theater, and she saves her brother, and the obnoxious boy gets eaten by the blob, which is just one of those things that, like, I love the movie went there and like literally dissolved the child on the screen, like turned him into dust.
Just nightmare fuel.
I always appreciate a movie that's willing to break the taboo on that. I don't want to see kids killed, but I just appreciate when movies are willing to let that happen.
In a realistic environment, let's be honest. Like, if this really happened in real life, the kids are fucking dying first. It's just how it is.
And they also did go out of their way to make this kid be like a total asshole.
Yes. Yeah, no, it was fine. Like, nobody feels bad when he gets eaten. It's fine. And so throughout all this, there's a couple of instances where they notice the blob doesn't like cold. At one point in the diner scene, they hide in the freezer, and a little bit of the blob comes up under the door, but then backs out once it hits the cold. Later, everyone is inside like City Hall, and they start spraying it with fire extinguishers, and it recoils again because of the cold. So they realize a cold is a thing. Things are chaotic at this point. The lead scientist gets sucked down into the hole. That's when they shoot it. A priest is set on fire. Well, first off, he finds a little bit of frozen blob earlier and takes it and puts it in a jar. But then also he is set on fire after a government guy is using a flamethrower, and he also gets set on fire. Just pandemonium, chaos. Eventually, though, Brian goes back to the garage that he sometimes works at, and he steals this snowmaking truck, like you'd use on a ski resort, where it sprays snow everywhere. And it's got canisters and liquid nitrogen on the back. He drives it into the area where the Blob is and tries to just spray it with snow. That's not enough. The Blob flips the truck. And while he is trapped in the truck, Meg, I was watching this with my daughters last night. Meg grabs a automatic weapon, stands up on top of something, and starts shooting at the liquid nitrogen. I'm like, she's an awesome final girl. Like, this is a really good final girl. And the liquid nitrogen explodes, freezes the Blob, breaks him into lots of tiny pieces, and so they're going to haul it off to, I guess, somewhere scientists do science stuff, but it's at least stopped. And then later...
A laboratory?
Yeah, scientists do science stuff. I'm doing great here. This is why people listen to us, because we have all these words.
I science in my garage.
But then later there's a tent meeting service that we see, kind of epilogue, and the priest who was formerly on fire is completely insane now. He's preaching about doomsday, and one of the congregants comes up to him afterwards and says, "When will this day come?" And he says, "Soon." And he has the Blob thawed out in a little jar, a teeny tiny blob. And he said, the Lord will give me a sign. So he holds the power to destroy the entire world in a tiny little jar. And he's crazy. So that's our happy ending. The end.
All right, Josh, you are our guest. You can start us off. Tell us what you thought of this movie.
So again, I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid. And as a kid, it scared the shit out of me. My only recollection was I knew that it got real scary in the sewers, but I didn't really remember anything else. And I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this, just knowing, or I should say, remembering very little. And the point's already been made, but A+ for Kevin Dillon's hairstylist. That was amazing. If I really started to think hard about the logic of the story and put screenwriter brain on, there were little things where I'm like, I don't know about that. But if I just watched to have fun, it's a good time. I was surprised, and I think Frank Darabont was one of the writers on this, which in hindsight made perfect sense. It's a really good script. My little quibbles and minor, frustrations aside, it's a really solid script. The performances were good. Shawnee Smith as the final girl was great. I know Kevin Dillon mostly from Entourage, so seeing him lead a movie like this was a ton of fun. And it's already been said before, but those creature effects were great, great. So that's my initial impression.
All right, Mondo.
This is one of those movies that has it's PG-13, but it has these great PG-13, I don't know if gore is the right word, but the effects of when the Blob first engulfs its first victim and their face pushes out and screaming. What an amazing effect that is. That it's one of those scenes that I remember from watching it when I was a kid and how much that horrified me. I think that the original Blob has a special place in my heart too, because I definitely watched that first because my grandfather watched that. But I do like how they updated this movie for 1988. We're in the end of Reaganomics, and it was definitely, I don't want to say it was anti-American's the wrong word, but they were definitely questioning the motivations of authority figures.
Oh yeah,
which I thought was really great. Shawnee Smith is great. Kevin Dillon's great. I love the Blob. I love when the Blob shoots out his tentacles. Because it's just so cool. I love the scene in the drive-in with the creepy guy with the trunk full of booze and whatever the fuck else was in there. He's giving people roofies, let's be honest. He's definitely roofing people. And the Blob gave him what he deserved. I thought this is one of the best horror remakes of all time, in my opinion. And I will say, as a man who's been to Blobfest, who's ran out of the theater at the Colonial Theater, this is a superior film when it comes to just a pure film. The original one was just different. I don't want to say the original one wasn't great. The original one's great. But I think this is one of those movies, though, you can, if your kids are on that cusp where they're trying to figure out, they're enjoying horror, but you don't want to show them, Terrifier. You don't want to show them, you know, they're not ready for Cannibal Holocaust yet.
It is a jump,
right?
From Gremlins to Terrifier or something.
I think this is a great film. You can kind of wet their feet on a little bit and get them into the horror genre.
Yeah, I had never seen the entirety of the original before. Like, just like caught bits and pieces on TV. So I watched the original. And again, it's hard to judge a movie from 1958, on any real critical level without any context of that. But I do think this is much better, in comparison. But again, I give that, that disclaimer. But the effects in the original are actually really hold up really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that there's a big middle lull that gets really boring.
Yeah, it's more toned down.
The original was made for a different audience too,
right?
Yeah. This was made for us, like
the original the original was literally made for a drive-in audience. It was made for kids that want to go see a movie and get a little bit frightened and make out and all that stuff. Jason, if you want to go to the drive-in, you let me know. But it's but yeah, this one's definitely attracting. It definitely went harder on the horror.
Yes. All right, Jody.
Yeah, no, I love this movie. It's actually one of those that I hadn't seen until a couple of years ago. Like, I think my first viewing was maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's just one of those I never encountered when I was younger. And I loved it then, and I love it now. It's got so many great set pieces that I didn't even get to when I was talking through everything, because some of them are kind of like little vignettes unrelated to the main story, but you get to see cool stuff happen. Like Mondo was talking about the creepy guy taking the girl on a date, and he's got all this booze, and he's obviously a terrible guy. He's liquoring her up so that he can do things to her, and when she passes out, he tries to make a move on her, and then gets just absolutely eaten by the blob coming from his date, like spewing out of her and destroying him. So good, so much fun. And it's great performances all the way around. Shawnee Smith is an excellent final girl because she is a very active final girl. Like, This is not one of those final girls who just happens to survive till the end. She has a machine gun at different points. She is fighting this thing. She goes to it to fight. She goes to save her brother knowing that he's in danger. So she's a great final girl, and I think she does a great performance here. I looked it up. She's only 19 when she did this role. So, like, she is really good for her age, and, it shows those things that we'd see later in some of her other movies, like the Saw sequels. And I mean, my first encounter with her was the Ted Danson sitcom Becker. So, this is a very fun side of her that I didn't see back then. But it's a lot of fun. I feel like they get the tone just right for this, with the humor and the gore and the goofy moments that are mixed in. Like, the tone is just perfect for, we're going to have a good time. We're going to eat some popcorn. You can enjoy this in various states of inebriation if you want to. Like, it's a fun movie. And if you can watch this and have no fun at all, we probably don't like the same movies at all. We probably can't have discussions about movies.
I forgot to bring it up, but the cast of character actors in this is just
wonderful. We're gonna do that rundown.
So many familiar faces.
Yeah.
So this came out and again in the late 80s, where there's this kind of cycle of taking movies from the 50s and then making them much more serious, much more gory, and kind of flipping expectations a little bit. This is kind of like a trinity between this, The Thing, and The Fly. We're all, again, movies in the 50s that were a little campy in their time. I mean, The Thing from Another World is, I think for the time, a lot of people thought it was very scary, but, the remake just really kicks up a notch. And again, here they're taking a movie that was made kind of a cornball movie, even had that silly theme song about the blob. and then just sets you up to think you're in for a very similar, breezy, not middle America, but all Americana movie. Because it even starts off with that football scene, and the football player gets knocked out, like gets concussed, and asks the cheerleader out on a date in the middle of a game. You're like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And you start to think that this cheerleader jock is gonna be the main character, and this flag guy is kind of in the background. He's gonna be involved somehow. And then they freaking kill off the All-American football player. That's like killing off Luke Skywalker at the end of Act 1 of Star Wars.
And they really
wouldn't go that hard, but
set it up with him too. Like, it's not just that first scene, but like you follow him to the pharmacy, you follow him to her house, meeting her dad, like all of this stuff leading up to it, and then he just gets dissolved right there in front of her.
Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if I hadn't known that Kevin Dillon was the lead, just by virtue of watching this movie like almost 40 years later and, knowing Kevin Dillon as an actor, I would have been shocked by that. It's like, wait, it's not his story? You just killed the main character. But no.
You would even think like the sleazy friend would be more of a main character, but no, he gets, again, it sucks that the quote girl that he's like getting drunk it also died, but the fact that like he's reaching into her shirt and then from her shirt comes out tentacles and starts eating him. Again, speaking of character actors, I didn't know this until I was looking at IMDb, but that's Erica Aliniak from Bordello Blood.
No.
Oh, okay.
Very small role, but
pre Baywatch, I think, right?
Yeah,
pre Baywatch. I think pre Under Siege, probably.
Oh wow.
So yeah, what this movie really does well is there's a lot of expectations that you have from this movie, and it keeps subverting them at every point. So even, again, the nature of the blob, if you've seen the original or any of the other original, you think, okay, it's a meteor. Even in the movie, you see it's something falling from the sky. You see it's rock-like. You think it's a meteor, but when they lift it up, finally, you see it's actually man-made. You're like, oh, wait, no, again, we're flipping it around. Again, you think the military guys might be shady, but they do a really good job casting Joe Seneca as like this very kindly older gentleman doctor who's kind of like, oh, I've waited my whole life for this, and we're here to take care of the town and everything. And like, the military is up to some shady shit, but he's such a he puts on such a kind grandfatherly act. You like want to believe him, but no, it turns out he's infected. Stop him! Kill Flag.
Yeah. He's willing to murder a teenager in the streets.
Yeah, exactly. Again, Joe Seneca from Taking It Pelham 1, 2, 3 and Crossroads.
So
Walter
good.
Hill, not the Britney Spears version. Again, we got very good, strong female lead. She's just taking control all over the place. There's that scene after she watches her boyfriend get mutilated that her mother takes her home and says, oh, just get some sleep. You'll be fine in the morning. Like, no. I just watched like a majorly traumatic thing happen. She's just like, sleep it off. It's total 80s mom.
I've always loved that because they do that all the time in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. The teenager just has 4 of their best friends butchered, and they're like, you just need some sleep.
Right.
When you wake up, it'll be better.
And again, this is the movie. So this is directed by Chuck Russell, who did Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. This is the movie he does after. And then he does a couple things. Then he does The Mask. And then he does Eraser, and then Scorpion King. So,
and I'll go on record. Dream Warriors is my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street, like hands down.
No, it's a classic. It's not my personal favorite, but it's a classic one.
I would also argue it's an X-Men movie, which is why I really love it.
Okay,
yeah.
I can see that.
Have I shown you that shirt I have that has it's like Dream Warriors? It has all the characters, but it's the cover of the Uncanny X-Men.
Oh,
yeah,
I want that shirt.
I'll find a link for you. That's one of my favorite shirts.
That's all.
Again, we've got these amazing practical effects, and it's funny because watching it now on HD on a big TV, when it's a small blob, it still looks really, really good. When it becomes the big blob, you start to see some of the scenes and some of the miniatures start to look a little bit more noticeable. But again, they weren't filming for HD at the time, so I give them a lot of credit, a lot of leeway on that. But they still look really cool.
I watched this in 4K for the first time. I got the nice Blu-ray that just recently came out.
Oh, you did? I bought that too just for this, and I forgot I already had the regular Blu-ray, so I was going to send that to you. So I guess I'll just So,
Okay.
I'll give it to someone on the street.
Pass the Blob love on. But yeah, no, I watched it in 4K for the first time, and even though, like you said, you could see some of the seams, like I noticed green screen. Like that's really the main thing I would see is green screen moments. But the actual creature effects never look bad. Like even like blown up to 4K, it still looks incredible. It's just sometimes the compositing of the like people and the creature at the same time.
Right. Again, this movie is very funny. That ribbed scene gets me every time. It's so well done. It's just like this like little almost SNL like sketch where the two guys are going or both have dates, and this one guy's like, oh, you get some Trojans. He goes up to the pharmacist. He says, oh, and then the preacher comes up behind him. He goes, oh, I'm getting there for my friend over there. And of course, it turns out the pharmacist is the father of the other guy's girl he's going to date. So he looks at him, he goes, ribbed. Kills me.
That creature is creepy as fuck, too.
Yeah, the creature is creepy as fuck. And that's such a great sequel bait ending. I would love someday to get something to pay off that. And again, I love that there's this like in the movie it's something like Toolbox Massacre or whatever, like Garden Tool Massacre.
Yeah, I mean it's Friday the 13th.
Yeah. But but at first you don't realize that you're watching a movie. They do that kind of switch and bait thing.
Yeah.
And the Theater Massacre is just such a great set piece. Another thing I love about this movie is that we don't really get any repeat kills. Each kill is unique. It's not just the blob, it's just attaching to someone, getting blobbed. It's all different kind of things. Even like the deputy played by the guy from ER, the asshole guy, who's also in Fame. Like even like he just gets like his back like broken and flung through a thing. Like there's just so many great unique kills.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it. We said, they cleared the table and like killed off the main character. They're also in the beginning setting up another like main character thing with the sheriff and the lady at the diner. Kill them off too. Like
the kills
start fresh like a third of the way through the movie.
Yeah, the kills in this are really mean. Like they kind of set up these kills, and like with the deputy, he's like flirting with the diner, and tells him what time she's going to come off. So she's like running from the blob, and she goes into the telephone booth, and she tries calling him. And then you see his like decomposing, dissolving corpse like pressing up against the thing. Like the blob has that kind of timing. Which body to push forward.
Blob has a sense of irony. Like
yeah. And then we get that great scene, and it's a total like blow up doll or something like that in the telephone booth when it crushes down. But it still looks really, really cool.
And what I loved about that is that kill happens off camera, so it's shocking for her and then
for
she's
us
fucked too, which is just in the phone booth. It's great.
Well, it's one of those things that if we had known that he was dead, it would be less impactful. But for us to learn the same time as her, so we're not ahead of the movie.
The
movie characters.
As
really
she gets shocked, we have to go, wait, they killed off the sheriff? Oh, they killed off her too. And then like, who's left?
And then you're like, oh, we're left with that asshole deputy. And which is great because he doesn't trust Kevin Dillon, and it just more conflict and tension. It's very well done.
This is a movie that really doesn't give you anybody like as a safe person outside of your lead characters. Like you very quickly learn you can't trust any of the authority figures in here, and even the ones you can trust, they're all dead. They don't last long.
Right. And again, I can't talk about that. Like the sewer scene where they kill the kid, that just really, really impacted me when I was watching that movie as someone approximately that age. That kill always stuck to me. I can't think of a movie that's like a kid being killed in such a way,
especially in '88 for a mainstream, especially for '88 for a mainstream film. That was definitely.
And it's not just it's not an off-screen kill.
No,
it is a fully melting on screen. This kid dies in front of us.
The only thing that pops into my mind is like the inciting incident of it. But without that kill, you don't have the story.
Yeah, or Pet Cemetery. But again, you're not seeing it happens, but you're not seeing it happen.
Yeah, I mean, even both of those, it doesn't actually happen on screen. Like you see Georgie reach in, and it like in the new version, you see his arm ripped off in this whole thing, but like. In the TV version, he reaches in and Pennywise does something.
Yeah.
Engages in the road when the truck's coming at him.
Yeah.
But you don't ever see the impact. You see this kid, like his skin melting off his face as he falls.
He's reaching for help. Oh, it gets me every time. The only thing that negative I have to say about this movie is the score is not very good. It's very. It feels like a late '80s TV sci-fi show, like one of those Outer Limits remakes scores that just kind of bugged me each time.
Honestly, don't even remember the score in this one. It didn't make much impact on me.
But especially in that like slow credits sequence with like a black cat walking by the screen. It just needs that. I get that they're setting up kind of a town that's a little dead inside already, but it's just a little slow, and the music is kind of blah.
You just like to be super critical. It's fine.
The one thing I'm critical about one of my all-time favorite movies.
You have to plot some piece of negativity in this.
Well, I'm being honest.
Can I poke some holes and see if
Please.
you guys for it?
No, go ahead.
So and again, I quite like this film. I didn't really understand the government. Like I get the basic premise of, oh, we need a weapon, but they're going to shoot it into space. It's going to come down. They know it's bad. They've somehow bioengineered this thing. They don't know that they and they have these flamethrowers. Like they don't know from like the engineering of this thing that cold like that to me didn't make any sense. And then the guy is so like, you know, and I love the reversal that you mentioned. You know, he comes across as very kindly, and then it flips, and then he's like, you know, I'm gonna like kill anybody I need to preserve this monster that I created, that I'm obsessed with. But you don't think he would know his own? Yeah. Like to me, that was never really clear.
My take on that is that what they sent something into space that mutated in a way they did not expect.
Yeah, that's
they had no clue what to expect when and then I don't think they meant for it to come back, or at least in the populated area. So maybe the blob in the mutated form messed with the probe in some way that it fell down. Yeah, they could have fleshed out a little bit more, but that's where the sci-fi stuff, you kind of yada yada, you know, shady government shit.
I kind of got the feeling it was an accident that it came back like this.
I don't think I've seen the original, but I'm guessing it's just a meteorite. To me, that works so much better.
The original, if I remember the ending correctly, they dropped the frozen blob off somewhere
in the Arctic.
In Antarctica, yeah, because he can't deal with the cold, and then it says the end
question mark.
Yeah, and like I totally, you know, expect some sort of like horror movie ending, and you know, in the entire genre, like there are some that like the ending of Carrie, I just think is like masterful. And then like some of them just kind of piss me off. And this one I was kind of okay with. I didn't really care about the preacher to really be like, oh, we're setting up the sequel with this character I don't care about. But also like, if we have all these frozen crystals just lying around, like it doesn't even have to be this guy. It could be any kid who's just like, oh, look, a rock. So well, again, these are very nitpicky things with the movie that I think overall worked really well.
Have you seen The Mist?
I have. Also Frank Darabont.
So again, same writer, or the same writer, and Frank Darabont wrote this. He also wrote The Mist and directed that movie. So I feel like he has a thing about religion and doomsday that he's trying to shoehorn into here. Yeah, I felt and to me, like watching this film, like having seen The Mist, I mean, more recently than I've seen this, not like yesterday, but many years ago, like that movie, I think did a really good job of showing like the breakdown of society and like the tribalism, which like this movie got at a little bit. Like in some ways I felt like this was almost like a trial run for The Mist, like totally different movies, but like some of the same themes I saw I think, and again, I thought it worked really well. Yeah, I see those comparisons.
I feel like, you know, this was made late 80s. And so, you know, we're at the time of like Goonies and things like that.
Yes.
This was a teenage adventure story, it felt like to me more than anything. Like it's sci-fi, it's horror, whatever. But like the adventure side of these two people are going to take on the government, take on the alien, take on all this stuff. It definitely had that flavor to me.
Can I ask you guys a question about that? Because you're way more versed in this stuff in the lore than I am. I'm watching this, and I don't know if it's just the archetypes or the tropes, But did Stranger Things borrow specifically from the Blob in many ways? Or is it just, well, a lot of the 80s movies did this? Because I'm watching, I'm like, oh, that relationship, that's Stranger Things, that's Stranger Things.
I feel like Stranger Things season 3, is that the one with the dissolving rats?
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
it felt very much like there were a lot of direct pickups. Like, there was the line about like the door will be locked and he's like, don't worry, I have a way in, and he picks up a brick. I feel like that was a direct line in Stranger Things.
But even just like the basic relationships of like, you know, it's like the cheerleader is with the jock, and then there's the outcast guy, and the cheerleader's younger brother. He's got his own story, and there's the shit. And again, I don't know if it's just the tropes of small town 80s, but like it felt like they were borrowing pretty heavily from this, which I love Stranger Things, so that was an unexpected delight.
Stranger Things is just like all these seasons are meshed together in my head, so I can't like pick out much individual. But
I feel like each season though had like a specific thing it was trying to emulate. So like the first season would be like Firestarter, like you got some of that in there.
Nightmare on Elm Street in the fourth one.
Nightmare on Elm Street for the fourth season, but season 3 definitely had a lot of Blob in it with that the rat gut monster.
Yeah,
and
maybe what was throwing me off here again. This, of course, being the source and that being, you know, the sort of riff, was in season 3. It was like the mind flayer and it was all like the hive mind, and I understood that. And this, I'm just like, wait, how is this monster working? Is it trying to eat because he's hiding? He's doing other things. Like and the movie ultimately does address that, but I just found myself wondering.
Yeah, and there are parts where like, why isn't the monster attacking Meg, you know, when she gets passed out after trying to save her boyfriend? Like, there's a couple little things like the monster really, if it's just trying to consume everything around it, why is it going after some people? Not, but that's all, you know, screenwriter stuff.
Yeah. Which, unfortunately, so that's, you know, my approach when I watch a movie.
Yeah. But again, how cool is that part where she's like falling over, she's like passed out, and then you see the hand in the foreshot that's still wiggling. That's obviously just like a hand through the floor, but then you have the bloody end on the other side. It's so freaking cool.
But even just like, you know, back to the, you know, the they're setting up this date rapist guy to be a major character. But even just like the little detail when he opens his trunk and you see like all of those rings.
Yes.
Yeah. Just wonderful, wonderful details. Like, it was great.
I love that so much.
All right, I want to go run down some of the other character actors in this because just so many. You know, Shawnee Smith from Iron Eagle, Who's Harry Crumb, The Stand, and Saw. The sheriff Jeffrey DeMunn from Christmas Evil, Newsies, Shawshank, The X-Files, especially in the movie. He was also in The Green Mile, and he was Dale from Walking Dead. Fran, the diner worker, was in American Graffiti, Zodiac, Cherry Falls. She was the mom in Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the movie. And then, Mondo, you point out that the cook guy who gets shoved into the plumbing, which is still one of the best sequences. When you just think about like how pulverized that must be, is also the orderly from Nightmare 3.
Okay,
he's the guy that tells Taryn like,
right, Mondo?
I have the keys to the kingdom.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure which one.
Okay,
but, that guy. Ugh.
Yeah.
We were talking about Joe Seneca, the Reverend. He's a fun character actor. He was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Untouchables, A League of Their Own. The pharmacist / father, Art LaFleur. He's in. He plays the Babe in Sandlot. He's also in Field of Dreams.
That's right.
And he's in Tales from the Crypt episode What's Cooking. So we got 3 Tales from the Crypt actors. Kevin Dillon's also in House of Horror. He's also in Creepshow in one of the later episodes. So he gets around in these corners. Then also the soldier that they find that like was attacked by the Blob, that they get the rocket launcher or whatever it is from. That's Bill Moseley.
Yeah.
And a pretty early role for him. So he's just like, you know, total in shock, freaking out mode. So that's always a fun role.
There's one other character actor, and I recognize him.
Yeah, please.
Like I recognize this dude because I see him or used to see him in tons of stuff. He has a very long face, and I can't remember what his role was in this. Frank Collison
in the movie theater. That guy.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Oh yeah.
He's in the projection booth. Yeah, he's just a dude who he
Right.
has a very distinctive face, and I remember seeing him in tons of stuff growing up, and then he pops up in here.
Yeah.
He's in Twin Peaks too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's so many kills in this movie that like they don't need the projectionist to be killed, but they do this really cool set piece all around that. Like there's like they could easily have gone much simpler and quicker on this, but you can tell they really are having fun coming up with all these cool kills for the Blob.
Well, this was not only a time of remakes; it was a time of remakes with heavy emphasis on special effects.
Mm-hmm.
Between this, The Thing, and The Fly, thing, like you got a feeling that the special effects artists got to play a lot in this movie. Like they would have a scene and they'd be like, "Okay, what can we do that's cool?" And they come up with something cool for it.
Yeah, so whenever someone says like you can't make a good remake, I'm like, no, you go watch these 3 movies, and that's how you do a remake. And one other thing, I'm just looking on IMDb, and there's a poster. It must be for some other region that says instead of the Blob, it's called Plasma, but with a Z. So it's really cool. I want to get. All right. Any final thoughts? Or why don't we go around to a final thought and we can do our rating 1 to 5. So Josh, we do 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. You can do half points. So Josh, give us your final thought and your rating.
Taking off my screenwriter hat and just for pure enjoyment, I'll give it a 5 out of 5 for Kevin Dillon's hair and a 4 out of 5 for the movie.
All right, Jody.
Yeah, so this is one of those movies that I love the first time I watch it, but I only like it more every time since. Yeah. So, I just watched it 3 or 4 years ago the first time, and this is maybe 3rd or 4th watch. First time was 4 stars. By this point, I'm just having fun. It's 5 at this point. Like I'm easy after a few watches.
Mondo.
I'm not going to go 5. But I'm going to go very close. I'm going to go 4.5.
All right.
Okay.
I do love this movie. But again, as I said before on this podcast, like at the end of the movie, if my brain doesn't say 5, it can't be a 5.
Sure.
Like if I have to talk myself into giving it a 5, it can't be a 5. But there is no shame in 4.5. That is pretty damn great. I love this movie.
I didn't know I could do half star, so I'm gonna go up then if that's acceptable.
Yeah.
I feel pretty much the same way, Mondo.
I mean, I chose this movie. I chose this movie, so obviously I'm giving it a 5. But yeah, I'm sure like if I'd never seen this one before and I was watching it, I'd probably be like, yeah, that's really good, but it's not like the most amazing movie. But because I saw it when I did, and that's kind of been coming in and out of my life, I just fucking love this movie. It's just so endlessly enjoyable. And to me, it's one of those like, why aren't more people talking about this movie? And that just could be a me thing. But I do think it's gotten more popular, especially once Scream Factory did that new release, the remaster release a couple years ago. Yeah. It's probably only gotten bigger, and I'm glad it's getting reevaluated. And, what's his name? David Bruckner, I think, is doing... Is that the right one? The guy who did the Hellraiser remake.
That's him.
Yeah,
okay. Supposedly he's working on another Blob remake. I'm not sure where you go from here, but I'm excited for it because he's a great filmmaker.
I mean, if you make it fun and show people melting, I'm probably going to be in. I'm easy. Yeah. I've already said that.
I feel like you're remaking a movie that came out 36 years ago. It's okay.
Yeah, totally. No, I'm all for it, especially with a talented director like him. So I'm all for that. Very excited to see where they go with it. And yeah, I would love to see it at Blobfest. I did see it in a theater a couple Halloweens ago. One of the local theaters did it, and it played really well. There's like almost no one there to see it, which I was a little disappointed by. But yeah, plays great on that big screen.
I'll be there next time.
Okay, I'll give you a call.
Sweet. Can I?
I still haven't made it there, but I want to.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah,
of course.
Is there a movie, horror film or otherwise, that you all would, in your personal opinion, you would be like, this is a perfect film?
Like personally, or like putting on my critic hat?
Either, because I do think you can make the distinction, but like personally, you're like, this is a perfect film.
Does it have to be a horror film?
No.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Okay.
Is what I always go to. Like,
okay.
That's flawless to me.
Non-horror, I'd say Big Lebowski.
Okay.
Is my favorite movie of all time, probably. But horror-wise, I'll say I think Nightmare. The ending of Nightmare 1 is the only
Kills
one that takes it down just
I
a
agree.
little notch. But
I
1
agree.
and 3 are two of my favorite movies of all time. But I would say I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is pretty much flawless in its execution of being just that gritty horror film.
I'm going Psycho.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely see that.
Cool.
But again, from the entertainment level, again, I would put the Blob and Sleepaway Camp right there too.
Yeah.
As far as like what I enjoy as perfect movies, but I understand that that's not for everyone.
Cool.
What about you, Josh?
Horror, I'd probably say, and I go back and forth on the ending, and sometimes I'm like, this is genius, and sometimes it pisses me off. Probably the first Halloween.
Yeah. Okay.
I think is pretty damn perfect.
Yeah.
Non-horror, Grosse Pointe Blank is one of my favorites. That I think, like, I can't find a flaw in that film. Like, I just find it delightful and fun, and it's got a great soundtrack. So does Halloween, but very different soundtrack.
For non-horror, I'd probably say The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Okay.
For like a 3.5 hour movie that makes me want to watch more.
Yeah.
That's a big feat.
Cool.
All right. Mondo, give us your song of the day.
All right, it's been a while, so I'm going to hit it on the nose this time. I might have actually used this song and band before, but Jason doesn't update the spreadsheet, so I just don't know.
Please. Yeah, refresh it. I put a marker in so we can cut the part out. Nope.
I am recording now. Sorry to interrupt song of the day. I know we were right in the middle of it, but I didn't want to complete it.
Just start that from the top.
It's fine. Yeah, so I'm going to hit this one right on the nose here. And it might be a song that I've used before, but Jason never updates my spreadsheet, so I don't know. If I did, call me out. I apologize. But there's a band from Florida called Morbid Angel. One of the most iconic death metal bands of all time. One of the best-selling death metal bands of all time. Got a lot of notoriety because their song God of Emptiness from the Covenant was on Beavis and Butthead back in the day, and they made fun of it. But it's okay. Like Beavis and Butthead, like brought notoriety to a lot of bands that didn't have it because people said, "Oh, that's a cool song," and Beavis and Butthead are riffing on it. Let me see it. Let me listen to it. But they came out like in the early '80s in Florida before death metal was really a scene. They're probably one of the first handful of bands alongside the band Death and like Cannibal Corpse and those guys. But in 1995, which is probably, if you talk to some people, they would call this like the down era of Morbid Angel because it came out right after Covenant, but they did an album called Domination. And on Domination is a really slow, groovy song that's phenomenal called Where the Slime Live. And if you listen to that song and think about the Blob, it sounds like the Blob's coming to attack your city in a very slow, plodding manner. So my song of the week is Morbid Angel's Where the Slime Live from the record Domination. And phenomenal band. I wish they just stopped releasing records after Gateways to Annihilation in 2000 because everything after that was dog shit. But everything pre-2000 was fantastic. Some great death metal.
Nice. Good one. I know you've done that band before, but I don't remember the song. So
fuck, I might have done the same song.
Now
that you said you have done that band before, it might have been the same song.
It's fine. That one,
yeah.
No, he knocked it out of the park.
We've been doing this for a while now. It's
gonna happen.
All right, Jody, got some horror news for us?
Yeah. So first, let's talk releases, like we always do. The biggest one to come out right now is Longlegs, which I still haven't seen yet. Have either of y'all seen it?
Yeah, someone with horrible taste told me they didn't like it.
It wasn't my cup of tea. I'll just say that.
I will say it's my number one movie of the year now. It surpassed Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah. Wow.
I read your complaints, Jason, and I'm like, this is old man yells at clouds.
No. It's just like, it's more stylistic. I just didn't like that style. And I'll just leave it at that.
Jason was definitely in the theater with a reporter hat on and a quill and a scroll to write out his negative thoughts on this movie.
No, there were people outwardly laughing at the movie in my theater.
Well, there were in my theater too because they were laughing at times when the movie was very uncomfortable, which people tend to do when they want to break tension. Just saying.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
No, we're gonna go ahead and I'm not gonna agree to disagree. I'm gonna go ahead and say you're wrong.
Agree to fight.
I watched Mondo not be on the show for a couple weeks.
Yeah, right. Oh God, damn it.
He is going to be out for the next couple of weeks.
That would have been a perfect time for me just to quit. Not come back for a couple weeks.
Other releases, I don't remember if I mentioned this one already, but Maxine also just came out, which is another one I haven't seen yet. I haven't been to the theater in a while. I need to get back to the movie theater.
I was supposed to see that on Sunday in Regal Cinemas. I'm calling you guys out. You guys fucked me over.
Oh, no.
I bought the ticket for the proper time. My ticket wouldn't scan for some reason. So they said, no big deal. Buy another one on the app, which is because I have unlimited. No big deal. So I went to go add the ticket and it wouldn't let me do it because the movie then had already started by the time I got through the customer service line. So then I said, what are my options? And my option was to buy a full price ticket. And even though they could see in their system that I did purchase a ticket.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm very salty at Regal Cinemas and I cancel my limited membership. I'll probably start it up again in a little bit, but for now it's canceled. So I'm grumpy.
I do that every now and then with my AMC because it's the only theater nearby, and I'll get sick and tired of A-List and I'll quit because AMC has done something to annoy me that I'm like, wait, it's the only theater around, so I still have to keep signing up for it.
I still hold it against them when I went to go see Satanic Hispanics and they canceled the screening and just didn't tell anybody that bought tickets.
Right.
That sucks.
Assholes.
All right, other horror news. Production is now underway on the Blumhouse sequel, Megan 2.0, which I don't know how everyone else felt about that movie. I thought it was a ton of fun.
I like
it.
So
I'm ready for more of it. It's, particularly a movie that I watched with my kids. Like, it's definitely gateway horror, but it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Did you guys get have you seen the trailer for that new movie they have coming out? It's like Affected or Infected or something. But it's another like AI gone bad.
Yeah.
Is it Afraid?
I don't know. Like I watched a trailer of that.
Yeah. They're going hard on those.
I don't know, man. I don't think I'm in on that movie. But yeah, it's called Afraid.
Yeah. I'm like,
because they did the AI in the middle and
Also, if I have to sit through that See No Evil or was Hear No Evil movie again.
Speak No Evil.
I'm so sick of that trailer.
So if you watch the European version, as a father, it's gonna fuck with you, but you're also gonna be super angry the entire time at the couple in that film.
Yeah.
No, I did hear, because I know we've brought it up before. The remake that they've done actually deviates from the European one in some ways. So even if you've seen one, they say you can still watch this one, and it's not just a straight remake.
My only complaint about the trailer is it shows everything.
Yeah.
Like they give away so much in that movie, and that was the fun part of it. Not the one since it's very fun, but that was one of the intriguing parts of the European film, was that it slowly unraveled this mystery, and you didn't really know what was happening until you got into the third act. Whereas this one, like if you watch a trailer, you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
A couple other things. Hell House LLC Lineage has been announced. It is the 5th Hell House LLC movie. I don't know. Have y'all seen the 4th one?
Yes.
I've only seen the first.
Was it good? Because
it's decent. It's not bad. I think it drags a little bit, but for the most part, I enjoyed it.
Okay. Because I think the first one is great. Like it's actually really scary.
Yeah. Yes.
This looks like Josh. I'm giving you assignments. Josh, I'm giving you the assignment to go watch Hell House LLC and report back.
Great. Done.
You should watch the first one. You can then watch the second one if you like the first one. Then you should not watch the third one at all. But then the fourth one's okay.
Cool. And when you watch the second one, go in with lowered expectations. That's nowhere near the first one.
I know I was just gushing about Nightmare 3 a little while ago. I find it very, very rare that any horror sequel will really jazz me as much as an original. It happens.
Always an exception.
Well, I'm the weird guy who part 2 is like my favorite of every long franchise for some reason.
Really?
Friday Part 2 is my favorite one.
Okay.
not Nightmare or not Halloween. Sleepaway Camp. I love Sleepaway Camp 2. That's by far my favorite of the series. I know it's a different thing, Jason.
I know
it's doing its own thing.
I'll go for that for Hellraiser 2.
Yeah, Hellraiser 2. I'll
sure.
agree with you.
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead
that's,
2.
That's different.
Yeah. They're essentially just remaking the first with more money and with a little more slash
and humor.
Yeah.
All right, last piece of news, some casting information for Terrifier 3, which comes out the day after my birthday, October 11th, so I'm excited for it. But I'm even more excited now because Clint Howard is going to be in this movie. And while modern-day Clint Howard has some opinions that I don't want to listen to, he still is this guy who showed up in every B movie I loved, so I have to kind of, be excited that he's going to show up in Terrifier. All right, I guess Clint Howard didn't have the same appeal to everybody else, but to me,
Clint Howard has that. Clint Howard has that unmistakable face.
Yes.
When you see him, you know it's Clint Howard. I think he was in Evil Speak.
Evil Speak, I really like.
Yeah, me too.
Ice Cream Man and the
Ice Cream Man.
Yeah, Ice Cream Man.
But yeah, he's just one of these guys that I like seeing him pop up and stuff, and so. Yeah, I'm excited that he's going to be in this one. This sounds like the third one. They not only have a budget, but also they're having fun with it because they keep announcing all these casting decisions, and it's all like fun people. And I wish I say that like I'm about to tell everybody else in there, but I don't have it pulled up anymore, so I'm not going to tell you anybody else. Go Google it, I guess.
I'm stoked.
What a great podcast.
I'm stoked for Terrifier 3. It's I like the first two, so I'm gonna go all in on this one too. I just want my Art the Clown popcorn bucket. That's all I want.
That sounds terrifying.
I still am one of the weirdos who absolutely hated part 1 star, and then part 2 I gave like 4 stars because I loved part 2. So
to be fair, Joey, when I saw part 2, I told you, I said you're gonna like this way more than the original.
Yeah, and I did. I 100% did.
The first one is way more mean. I mean, okay, it's really weird to say the first one's more mean-spirited, but it's somehow more mean-spirited, than what you see in the second one. The first one is
the first one is more mean without any playfulness to it. The second one, they're having a little more fun. I have a cat on my desk. So if you're watching this video, there's a tail in my camera.
The cat is showing us its ass because it's comfortable with us.
Yeah.
Josh, have you seen In the Violent Nature yet?
Is that the one where you're in the slasher's POV?
Almost,
kind of,
but yeah.
Yeah, over the shoulder.
I have not. It's so I too have kids. As I guess this is a dad podcast. I'm very envious. It's hard for me to watch anything new. Like I really, really, really want to see Late Night with the Devil.
Oh yeah.
Which it's just like the trailer for that was just fantastic.
Such a good movie. And
The Violent Nature, like the reviews have been very, very positive, and I really want to see that, but it's going to be a little while before I.
If you should get Shudder if you don't have it, because I think In the Violent Nature will be there.
It's going to be on Shudder.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, so is Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil is on Shudder.
Great.
Mondo and I are both lucky because as our kids are getting older, we're able to watch more movies. I know Jason's kind of in the middle there as his kids are starting to like be on that cusp of being old enough to let him watch movies. But
no, we took our girls to see Inside Out too, and there was a trailer for the new Beetlejuice, and which I think looks fun.
Yeah,
I love the original. The new one looks cool, and my 5-year-old is like, if you say Beetlejuice, she'll have nightmares, and I'm like, it's not scary. It's not.
Hey, you never know though. Like it's just what she perceives as scary in that moment.
My daughter is so pumped for that movie. She keeps asking me when it's coming out because she keeps forgetting.
For the record, Jason, I took my daughter on Friday to see Longlegs, and they loved it too. So just saying.
Cool.
Yeah. I've just like I went through a long, slow process of like boiling the frog when it comes to horror with the kids. I don't know about that metaphor. Boiling the frog. What a gross metaphor.
That's a pretty creepy metaphor.
It's pretty terrible.
You guys boil a lot of frogs.
I've never boiled a frog in my life, but somehow I use that metaphor. But it's slowly we introduce stuff, and Gremlins I think was the first like scary movie we watched. I wanted to tell that to Dante, but I wasn't invited. So
Gremlins had some cool.
What did your kids think of the Blob?
So,
yeah. What's up?
Jody, what did your kids think of the Blob?
Oh, they loved it. Yeah, no, it's great. We in this same week we also watched Return of the Living Dead, so we've just been having fun, having a good time. That one was one that I was hesitant to show them, mainly because of Trash's full nude scene. But at this point, we've watched a lot of slashers, and we're kind of getting used to boobs on screen because they're in every movie from the '80s. So you just accept it.
Show them part 3 next, because I never thought I'd be infatuated with the zombie, but here we are.
That's one for young teenage boys to discover on their own. What is
Joey's gonna slide the VHS tape under the crack in his son's door, like just
the overdubbed one, with the Sharpie sticker on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of Beetlejuice, a new trailer came out today. It looks really good.
It does look good.
Looks cool. Really excited for that.
Looks cool.
All right, anything else, Jody?
Nope, I'm done. Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, Josh, I'm gonna put you on the spotlights.
Sure.
We're dads from the Crypt, and we do our world famous dad advice section. You are a well-renowned father figure.
Sure.
Such confidence.
What parenting advice would you like to give to our audience?
So I have a very good friend who is about to become a mom, and I will share the advice that I gave to her over dinner the other night, which is ignore all parenting advice. All of it.
Thanks.
A good way to put it.
Ignore it. I'm actually quite serious.
No,
people, in my opinion, people have been having kids and been being parents for thousands and thousands of years, and we don't need like this whole industry telling people that, oh, you're not a good parent if you don't have this thing, or oh, you need to go buy this, you need to go buy that. Trust your instinct. You'll be fine. Kids are kids. Like, I saw Inner Space when I was a kid. It fucked me up, and here I am making one more plug. Horror comic books. There we go. By the way, also just to bring it full circle, one of the characters in this book is named after Shawnee Smith.
Excellent.
Nice.
So there's that.
With what you're saying there, I have a lot of kids. Okay, I have 6 kids. Kids are part of my life every day, and so I have long said, like, find what works for you. Like, find what works for your family. Like,
exactly.
You need your kid to go to bed at 8:00 because they have early stuff the next morning every day. Fine. Then you make that work. You figure out ways to make that work.
Yep.
We homeschool our kids. It's the decision we made, several years ago. And so we're not on a schedule. And if my kids want to stay up till 1:00 and watch horror movies with me, sometimes we do that. Like, and people would say, well, you're not supposed to do that. Why are we watching these movies? Find what works for your family.
Exactly.
If your kid needs to sleep a certain way, do that. If your kid has to eat,
That's probably a much more diplomatic way of saying what I said.
We've been doing this for 3 years, and that's the first time we've heard that. So I love it.
Well, if you treat your kids with love and you have empathy, like everything else, you'll figure it out. You really will.
Well, I'm not saying, do to your kids what they did to that shithead in the Blob. I'm just saying, trust your instincts. Like, you'll be fine. You don't like, if you get advice, maybe it's bad advice. But yes, I think love your kids is, understood.
If when you get older and your adult or teenage children want to hang out with you, you nailed it. It doesn't matter how you got there, but you got there. And just proud.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, Josh, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people follow you and find your work?
Sure. So I'm relaunching my website, which I just need to pay Squarespace the fee. I don't know when this is going to post, but it will be josheiserike.com.
How do you spell that?
Josh, Josh, Eiserike, E-I-S as in Sam, E-R-I-K-E.com. I'm the only Josh Eiserike. You can also just Google me. My Instagram is jeiserike, which is probably the most public of my social medias. I don't know. I don't understand social media.
It exists. That's it.
It exists.
It's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll have the website, which should be up pretty soon. And it's got links to all the books, and you can read the first chapter of Fairy Final Last Girls for free. I should also mention that. The publisher has it on their website.
Nice.
And who's the publisher again?
The publisher is Darby Pop Publishing.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Next week, we're going to be doing another surprise staff pick. This time, Jody gets to choose because Mondo's in timeout.
I'm going to be in fucking Arkansas. If anyone wants to come hang out in Hot Springs, Arkansas, that's where I'll be.
That's the same thing as being in timeout.
Yeah, I was say going to Arkansas is being in timeout. Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank everyone for listening. We would really appreciate it if you would give us a rating review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, a like and subscribe on YouTube. And you can always follow Dads from the Crypt Talk on TikTok. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Adios.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.